Hey everyone, welcome back to HD Reddit Reads. Today's topic is Teachers of Reddit, what was the best excuse for being late that turned out to be true? Let's get into it. I had a student whose father had died and had not done any homework or prep for the geography class. From what I heard, the teacher scolded him for not doing so, but the student didn't want to say anything, presumably sensitive issue, so his best friend shouted at the teacher, "Don't you have any shame? His father died last night." And the teacher said, "I don't care." There was an audible gasp, and I was in the next room. Needless to say, that teacher is no longer employed here. My sophomore year in high school, Dad died. I missed a week of school. When I got back, I tried to turn in my English assignment that was due the week I was out. Teacher wouldn't accept it, said it was late. I told her my father had just died, and that's why I was out. She said, "I know, but it's still late." Went home, told my mother. The next day, the principal, my guidance counselor, and the superintendent had all contacted my teacher to rip her a new one. She had to accept my assignment. She was salty about that the rest of the year. I was the kid. Physics, 11th grade. The day prior to this day, my neighbor passed away, and her son was a friend of mine, and also in this class. Terribly long story, but it was a suicide by hanging, and I was the one who found her. I had nightmares all night and skipped the first half of school the next day. When my physics teacher saw me later, she asked where I was that morning. Before I could explain, she said, "That friend was looking for you and concerned. He seemed more worried than he should have been and was a little upset about you not being here. The guy's mom died, but he still went to class and didn't tell anyone, but was worried about me. I couldn't tell her what had happened at this point, so I just said I overslept." She had to take her sister to school and drive her mom to rehab. She was always late to class because her mom just wanted to sleep in. Problem was, if the mom was late or did not go, she would have to violate her probation and gone to prison. I never marked her late. If she missed anything important, she could come in at lunch or after school to make it up. Student here. I headed into school early to get some studying done in the library before my night class. I was one exit away and I was caught in a 3-car accident. Most of the expressway afterwards was a gridlock with only one lane left open. I did eventually make it into my lab class 15 minutes late, with a few scrapes and bruises. My professor's reaction was simply, "Oh, that was you." Not a student, but one of my teaching assistants when I ran a preschool in West Philly. "Sorry I missed yesterday. My friend shot my mom." Naturally, I'm a little speechless. "Oh, no, it's okay. He was aiming for someone else." When I was a manager at a pizza place, one of the employees had the same excuse and attitude, except he was one who got shot. He lived in North Philly though. "It's cool," he said, "my bad." Well, okay then. I was one of about 20 kids who were late to school. We showed up at the school office as a group, and when questioned why we were late, we said, "The school bus blew up." They questioned, "So the engine blew up?" The kids, "No, the whole bus in flames, it blew up." There was much conference between the teachers, all of them thinking we embellished the story. Next thing you know, one of the admin staff has the news website open. Various obvious image of an entire bus on fire with a bunch of kids in our school uniforms standing in front of it. Our late slip for the class read, "School bus blew up." My auto teacher let me practice removing and adding the tires on his vehicle. The next morning, it was about 20 minutes into first period and no sign of him. He comes running in the classroom out of breath with his hair all in a mess. He points at me and says, "You, what is a torque wrench used for?" I respond with, "I don't know." He says, "I know you don't know." Turns out one of his tires came off while driving down the highway. After 9/11, my small town high school received bomb threats every week for 2 months, and they decided to make us attend school on Saturday. Myself and about 5 others showed up for our classes, and every other teacher said something like, "I can't wait for the excuses on Monday." Most of the excuses were something along the lines of family plans or whatnot, but one of the kids made us read his dad's note aloud to the class because our first period teacher thought it was hilarious. It was the most down south accent you can imagine. It went something like, "My son ain't smart, but he knows you ain't supposed to get punished for someone else being a dumbass. Bought him a 6-pack so he was drunk. Y'all can F off." I wish we had smartphones to record back then so I could share it. When I was a student teaching, I was late because there was a bunch of chickens in the middle of the road. They wouldn't move at all. This is in the middle of a city of 200,000 people. Freaking chickens. I finally got out of school and profusely apologized to my mentor teacher and told her why I was late, thinking it sounded ridiculous. She said, "Yeah, those chickens are effing a-holes. They surrounded my car in McDonald's parking lot last year. Don't worry about it. In high school, I biked to class. One day I hit a rock and absolutely ate shit. I obviously got to class late. Before I could say a word, my teacher stopped my class and said, "Thank you for finally joining us. Why are you so late?" I raised my heavily bloodied hands and elbows. It must have looked bad because she audibly gasped and rushed me to the school nurse, apologizing nonstop the entire way. MTV paid me $50 to fill my backpack with cement and carry it around for the day. I accepted that excuse. Student later regretted it, as a replacement backpack and college textbooks far exceed $50. But he got his moment of fame, and I didn't penalize him for this tardy. Gotta live a little. In my hometown, if you walked into anywhere late and said the phrase, "Sorry, grain train," you were never challenged. It was extremely common for 50-plus carriage trains to run through the middle of the town. Where I am, we have a similar problem with farmers transporting huge loads on the tiny 1.5-lane roads around here. In their defense, they will pull in when a tailback forms and let people pass, but quite often we're talking a tractor with 2 trailers loaded 2 cars wide with hay or whatever it is. Those kind of large laybys are few and far between. I'm Pink. A fair-skinned student, age 10, went with a friend to the Holi festival at a nearby Hindu temple, where she was covered with red powder and dyed bright red from head to toe. Her mother, another teacher at the school, had made her sit for hours in the bathtub to soak it off. But even after another round of early morning shower scrubbing, she arrived at school a pleasant shade of pink. Technically, she wasn't late, but she stayed in her mother's classroom until the bell rang. I had a chemistry professor show up about 15 minutes late. Just when people were about to leave, he shows up and explains that he was just in a car accident. His car had been in a rollover and he still showed up. He was okay, he drove a Volvo. Had a sociology professor in college who was never late for anything. One day, we showed up for the class and he wasn't there. After 5 minutes or so, we were reading the handbook to find out what level of professor he was and found that he was associate professor and entitled to 10 minutes wait. A few seconds before his time expired, a voice came from under the desk saying, "Today we are going to discuss withdrawn personalities." He conducted the whole class from under his desk. I was a student. My neighbor had a really social goat, and she figured out how to escape her pen in order to come over and hang out. She escaped and followed me to the bus stop, and when the bus came, she tried to follow me onto it. I couldn't really get on the bus without her being right behind me, so I had to get off, bring her home, and call my dad to bring me to school. Not teacher, but pupil. I was in a car crash on my way to school, about 5 cars involved because some jerk decided to overtake us since we slowed down coming to a turn. So a trip to the hospital to get checked, and then school 3 hours late. I had small cuts all over my face from glass flying everywhere, and had a really sore shoulder. But my teachers wouldn't believe me until police showed up because they forgot to get a statement from me. Apparently, some of the other people involved died and the jerk got 8 years in prison. Not me, but one of my good friends. She went to the Royal Military College of Canada, and they were in their uniforms, and there are often tourists visiting the campus. Apparently, it was completely normal to be waylaid by tourists looking to have their photos taken with students in uniform, that all they had to say when they walked in late was "tourists," and the professors would let it slide. She always wondered how many family photos she was actually in over her time spent there. Literally today, child missed my first hour class, note said car accident on the way to school and would be coming in late. Kid comes in 2 hours late, has picture on his phone of the rollover accident. What the F? Kid, go home. Rest, take care of yourself. Edit. I have another one, although this one happened to a classmate when we were in college, training to be teachers. She missed a really important class, came for just the last 10 minutes or so because her neighbor knocked on her door while in active labor, asking for help for a little while before she was supposed to leave for class. Classmate walked back to the neighbor's house with prego neighbor and delivered the baby in her living room, while on the phone to 911. Paramedics came and the mom and the baby were fine, but classmate needed to go home and shower/change first because she was covered in blood. Thank you for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing. It'll be greatly appreciated. And if you want to visit the original thread, I'll link it in the description. But yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one.